Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Roger's Real-Time Talk Show event. Before we get started, I want to apologize for last week. I was calling that the sixth episode. I had gotten distracted by all of the crazy stuff going on around me, and I wasn't aware that it was only the fifth episode. This is technically the sixth episode, which is actually better because that means I can actually do a review of what we've covered on Roger's Real Time Talk Show event for 2006. This is actually our our fourth season, and we've gone a different direction. So it's kind of interesting, in my opinion, how this year's played out. Before we start getting into some of the topics that we've gone through. I mean, what's your guys' takes on that? I mean, for me, I do think that this year's actually been a pretty interesting year when it comes to this series. We'll start with you, Mark, since you're the co-host.
We are talking about the more politics, social stuff. So are talking about the history of sociology and stuff?
Yeah, that's what we're doing.
Okay. It's very interesting. It's controversial, but interesting. Yeah.
I guarantee it's been a lot more controversial than the first three seasons for sure. And
maybe.
So what about you?
Yeah.
What's your takes on the show so far this year? What you've participated in so far?
Yeah, I don't know. Is this the one that you yelled at me on, or is that another one?
No, this is the one where
maybe.
This is the one where we've been talking about sociology and socialism.
The social stuff. Yeah. One of my favorite topics.
Yeah.
I like social science. I like political, social stuff. Of course, that's what I did in my radio show.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, we got to talk about terminology. We got to talk about the origin of things and how it relates to mind control. That's one of my specialties. So it's interesting to connect and talk about those things. Yeah.
Now we have the wild man, Robert. What do you think? You better be good.
Well, I am.
Yeah.
Well, I think it is a little tame, like the new technology that they came out with. They took DNA and to make it into a brain cell or a supercomputer.
That has absolutely nothing to do with what we've been talking about.
Well, in a way it does, because you can use the process and to teach it, learn from it.
Okay, so
basically, he wants to talk about serial killers.
Yeah, I know. you were here for that one. I take it.
Yeah.
Freaking serial killers. Now he's here talking about putting technology in your brain and shit.
No. Not the brain. I'm talking about they create the brain into the machine in Australia.
Well, yeah, of course, in Australia. So now, after going around and hearing that horrible last comment that was made, I'm gonna get on to the more serious stuff. That was just horrible.
What happens in Australia stays in Australia.
That's right. Now, when we started this year, I asked you guys one question at the very beginning, and I wanted to get your take on it. Now, do you feel that sociology and socialism are two separate things, or do you think they're one and the same?
what are they? I mean,
We'll sit back and listen. You might find something. My question is sociology and socialism the same thing, in your opinion? Go ahead, somebody.
Well, sociology, when you add theology to it, it means the study of social. Socialism would be being of social practices. So clearly distinct.
like what kind of practices
Anything social.
and what is social? The meaning
The
of it.
interaction between individuals, groups, and any other bodies of that pertain to or consist of people communicating.
Now, the best way for you to define sociology, especially, is it's the study of society, like B just said, okay? And it asks you things like, what do people believe differently in groups, or how are society norms created? You know, and that's one thing that I am going to get more into, is like a lot of people don't understand that they literally define what values are and what social norms are. Norms. You know, the other day we had this conversation, and it was amazing to me because, like, when you talk about this stuff, you need to understand this is all about social engineering. Okay, this is not a freaking time where you start having warm fuzzy feelings for your family. You know what I mean? And start feeling all freaking warm inside because of what we're talking about. That's the effect that it caused. You know, Tan came or said at the end of he said this amazing stuff at the end of the show about freaking being a father is the greatest thing that's ever happened to him. You know what I mean? And that shouldn't have been the effect that he got from having this conversation, but it happened. You know, I did find that interesting. Because right now, whenever we're doing the shows, that's what I'm doing. I'm paying attention to how you guys react to this stuff. And it was completely the opposite than what I thought it would be.
Okay.
I got the warm, fuzzy feeling coming across Communist Kid. He's a YouTuber, a little child. They call him Communist Kid because he did a video on communism and why it's good.
Okay.
What was you gonna say, Mark?
Yeah, no, I wasn't really saying anything. It's just sort of,
Yeah. Well, what I was referring to is when people do not pay to attention of the situations that arises from
just getting echoes on you. Can't hear
You
you.
got echo.
Yeah,
Can't hear you.
he's probably. Let me mute out. He's probably talking. Coming through my mic.
Okay. How's that sound?
Much better. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, what I was referring to is for every situation and for the ideal and understanding. Okay. People should understand that with each thought and each action that you take, how it leads you, the situation for the unknown, whatever happens. No one knows what the outcome is going to be, but when that does happen, we have to face facts that this is the situation for what it is, and it's what you recreate from it, that it came from your mind.
Well, see, that's the thing, though. It's like that's not what this is about. This, like, the thing about it is it's like these people, they ask questions like, you know, not only how people behave differently in groups, but they also ask, like I said, social norms, And then they want to evaluate why do institutions survive. You know what I mean? So they'll break this down and they'll freaking compartmentalize it and everything. And then they start asking how are values passed from like one generation to another.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? So they're literally planning this stuff out so that they can figure out how to socially engineer everybody so that we think a certain way, the way they want us to think.
Oh,
You know, and then like you hear the word social change a lot these days. Okay, so now they're promoting this whole thing about social change, and that's where it gets into the controversial stuff. People start talking about freaking transgenderism, and they start talking about homosexuality and you know, gay rights and all that stuff, and this is all engineered so that people are doing that because they want to cause that kind of friction.
yeah, the governments do.
No, it's not okay. That's the whole question about socialism versus sociology, because you got to ask, is it really freaking two separate things? You know, the line between the academic study and the political ideologies and stuff of socialism, they're blurred. You know what I mean? They become blurred. Like you can't tell. Like people call wokeism woke. Okay, it's not called what it really is. It's sociology. These people are teaching this stuff in college. They're handing freaking pamphlets out on campuses all over the United States, dude. You know,
And I forget who's one that brought it up to me, but like in the past, certain things what well, perfect example, our past tells a lot about situations of what happens, where like what and he's right, because different countries during from the 15s all the way up to now, look at the progress they have went and the problems that has happened, the ideals of it, you know, of word, and they didn't believe in that back then, because I've heard about if they thought the person was in that way, in that set of mind, what would happen to them. It's not a good thing.
I have absolutely no idea what you were just saying.
Well, I'm referring to where you're thinking you're a male or a female, and that back then.
Look, that's that. See, no, Robert. The thing of it is that should never even be a part of any conversation. People have been acting this way for the last 500-600 years.
Yeah.
We were just talking about what's his name? Who was the guy? He was the poet. He was the gay guy. The one that is
Oscar Wilde.
Oscar Wilde. Okay, he was as gay as a $3 bill, dude. Okay, and you were stupid.
Queer.
Yeah, queer. You know, and everybody knew it. You know what I mean? There was no freaking telling or saying, "Oh, he could be gay." Everybody knew it, and nobody freaking. It didn't make it to the freaking White House. It didn't make it to the freaking Congress. Well, we got to do something because Oscar Wilde is gay. He's gonna subvert our children and make them freaking do horrible things because he's a homosexual. None of that shit should be a part of politics. It shouldn't be. It never should have been.
That's true. I was referring to back a long time ago when the church was in control, but like you said, it's true. But people had that type of an ideal back then, and they acted on it.
No, they
That was
didn't.
wrong.
No, they didn't. I mean, people knew homosexuals were around back then. You know, I mean, and it's like religious groups. You know, people in their families apparently knew it. Homosexuality goes back since the beginning of freaking civilization, dude. The Greeks had homosexuals. I mean, if you're most of the Greek literature you're reading is freaking like gay porn, dude. Okay. I mean, it's true. The Iliad, it's been censored out so bad, people don't even realize what the original freaking book of the Iliads are. I mean, it is just gay porn, one thing right after the other.
Have you heard of the double soul guru?
No.
So it's this white guy, right? He shaves his head, but he's got this big beard, and he does things like drinking his own urine. He'll be in a fetal position up against the wall, upside down, and he'll ejaculate into his mouth and eat his seed. And he actively does naked hugging with other men and touching penis heads to penis head for affirmations and slapping each other's ball sacks. You know, because this is what the Spartans used to do. The double soul guru. Look him up.
No. You can keep that one for yourself.
Oh, yeah.
See, when we do the 6-episode review, that's when we usually go through and we come across, stuff like this, and yeah, you start realizing that maybe, doing this freaking episode 6 review was a good idea in the first place.
Groups of men would be in a pool and they would be holding each other and crying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
Well, getting back to like sociologists, okay, when it comes to the stuff they study, Robert, they study things like family. And they also study religion. They study economics too, and they're big on crime. They've infiltrated the school system. Education is their big one. All right. So they're all caught up into that, as well as like community programs and freaking, they love to study how cultures change and stuff like that. Social studies, basically, because that's all social studies is about, is like cultures and how they've changed throughout the years and stuff. You know what I mean? So that's basically what they do, and then that brings us into the government part, what we were talking about. So,
Yeah.
it,
So like the state of mind of a person.
yeah, basically they're literally dissecting the way people think.
And like what I was referring to with this is like why I brought up the thing about serial killers is if you look at them, the way they handle situations, they have like no fear of getting killed or getting killed or hurt. They act like they got that killer instinct, and it overrides their sense of morals. That's the way I can put it. And that's how they come up with the way they handle situations and the way they think.
Right.
That's what I'm referring to about when it comes to serial killers.
Yeah.
The way they handle themselves in the process.
Well, I mean, I tried to mention that before. I think that's actually something that humanity doesn't want to admit. Like, we have these, like, being a sociopath isn't freaking like your environment. That's actually a mental freaking problem where you literally don't feel emotions whatsoever. Okay? And that's a part of animal instincts. And that's a part of nature, and I think it's really hard for people as humans to understand that we are a part of our freaking natural world. We think that we're like separated from the animals and the wild, and that we don't have these instincts. So that's the reason why we have sociopaths and nobody understands why we have them. Oh, how did these people come about? They are evil. No, they're just freaking, they have mental illnesses that comes with the natural world.
And you always hear it too. They say, for some strange reason, a certain thing make them respond to that into that situation.
Well, I
don't know about that.
I still don't understand where you come up with serial killers when it comes to this topic, though. I still can't. But
since they're doing
I don't even want to hear an explanation, dude. Seriously, I just don't really. It's like, it amazes me that you relate this topic to serial killers, because it has absolutely nothing to do with what we're talking about.
Well, come on. And socialism, sociopaths, they can't sound the same.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's probably why he's saying that shit. Like, and you know, all the stuff that we've discussed, he probably hasn't even heard any of it. Like, it just goes right through one ear and out the other. Like, you know what I mean? And he does that shit.
Well, to give him credit, it's not like he's talking about psychopaths. Psychopaths are born. Sociopaths are created. So it takes trauma and abuse to create a sociopath.
But you know, they don't feel any emotions whatsoever.
No, that's psychopaths.
No, psychopaths are neurotics. Those are the ones that are psychopath. That now they call them freaking schizophrenics.
Well, no. So the psychopaths are, yeah, like I said, they don't feel. They have parts of the brain are underdeveloped, and so they don't share human emotions, or they don't feel them to the depth that a normal person would. Sociopaths are pretty much beaten until they're numb to these emotions. So, both correct. But it takes being traumatized and beaten. You know how I say a victim becomes a victimizer. Mm-hmm. And so it is a social construct.
You know, like when you make up a second person in your mind.
It looks like Mark's having issues with his Jitsi. So, just to let you guys know. Now,
so just to come to Robert's defense, that's all. I want to gang up on him.
Well, I don't buy it. He wants to talk about freaking serial killers. That's all there is to it.
He's got to be the French guy on the show.
Yeah, he's trying to be unique and stand out. Like, you know.
Well, no, you watch on them shows, okay? You watch the personality of them.
Hello, Mark. Now, I'm going to tell you something right there. That is actually a good thing to get into, because, like, when you watch stuff like Criminal Minds, now that is actually real truth about that. And the most disgusting part isn't the serial killers. It's the people who are hunting the serial killers. They literally have to separate themselves from the emotions in order to think like these people.
Oh, yes.
Okay?
Absolutely.
So they don't even look at the victims as human beings, dude. In order for them to do their jobs, they don't even look at them as human beings to do their jobs. That's pretty freaking morbid.
Yeah, that kind of stuff makes me think, like, criminology. I hear about the people that take these criminology courses and get PhDs in criminology, but yet they work for a criminal system. Criminal system, which is hilarious to me.
And it doesn't say how.
Now hold on, let's do a sound check with Mark. Mark, are you doing all right?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Okay, because I noticed you were bouncing in and out.
Yeah, I've had 2 disconnections, 3 disconnections of the last hour or so.
Yeah, it was about maybe 5 minutes.
Yeah. We log in.
Okay. So Robert has gone down his serial killing path. He decided that freaking we need to talk about serial killers and I started talking about Criminal Minds, the TV show. It's really weird because I found out, and it is true. These people literally do have to freaking separate themselves from their emotions when it comes to tracking these people and catching them. I find that just as disturbing as freaking the fact that there is serial killers out there. You know what I mean? The fact that they just, like the victims, they have no freaking. They try to separate their emotions from people who are victims. Like they're just. Somebody's moving around.
I thought I lost you, Ken. You went silent on there for 2 seconds.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that's where he went. Now I'm going to try to get this back on track because I think we need to move away from that. Now, the thing about it is too is what I wanted to get into is like get into some of the stuff we were talking about, socialists. Now, most people they understand that, like socialists, they believe that society should be more collective control over like resources and stuff, you know. And
Right.
but the one thing that I found really disturbing, especially here in the last 3 or 4 months, is that people have a hard time believing like democratic socialism, what they call democratic socialism isn't freaking a form of socialism, or freaking that they don't believe it. You know what I mean? And they don't believe that there's Christian socialists that are out there, and there's also like well, you know, you've got the revolutionist Marxists that are out there that everybody knows about. But they don't even realize like there's socialists that are libertarians. You know. I really do find that pretty interesting. I find it kind of disturbing too. You know what I mean? Because there's a lot of, especially people in Canada. Now, there's tons of people in Canada that will swear up and down to you that they are not a part of us.
Entire government, entire last 2 governments, Trudeau. Yeah.
Like they are 100% socialists, and you try to tell them that, and they freak out because they don't consider democratic socialism a form of socialism.
Also, Bob, in Gardening shows us demonstrates that New Zealand, when she was talking about the rules about the plants that she's going to farm.
Yeah.
They've got a very socialist sort of, and of course the Australia as well. So yeah.
I like the Kiwi thing that Callum was talking about, where they have an organization that comes together and negotiates freaking international sales for Kiwi. That right there did stick out to me, you know. And according to him, they make good money off of it. They do better with that than what they do if they had to do it on their own. But I did find that interesting when I heard that. So what is your guys' thoughts on the Frankfurt School, since we're at the half an hour?
It's such a broad question.
No, I mean, when you first heard about it, what was your initial thoughts?
My thoughts when did I first learn about the Frankfurt School? 20 years ago, 20 years ago. So I can't remember what was my first thoughts 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm. So you don't really know what your thoughts were about it? Okay,
you asked me what I was thinking about 20 years ago.
Did you like the idea that the Frankfurt School was out there doing all this marvelous stuff to help society?
What do you consider?
How about no? Let him answer, Robert.
Yeah, of course.
What about you? What about you, V? What's your thoughts about the Frankfurt School? He fell asleep.
EV.
He was wrestling around there for a little while, so I know he was there. I'm wondering.
Yeah. Or we could have called him in the bathroom.
No, my Jitsi wouldn't come up on my iPhone. Just
Gotcha.
unmute. Yeah, I don't know. School is cool. Stay in school, fool.
Yeah.
That's what Mr. T would say.
What?
No, I don't have any opinion. What's your opinion?
What do you think Mr. T would say about the school of Frankfurt, though?
I don't know, man.
Critical theory. Do you agree with it?
It's not my strongest area of knowledge. You know more about than I do.
Well, what is the school of Illinois?
No,
What?
Frankfurt.
Oh, well, Frankfurt School.
That's
What?
not West Frankfurt, Rob.
Oh, okay.
That's Frankfurt. Oh my God!
I'm so used to saying that.
Frankfurt
Okay.
School comes out of Germany. It was founded.
Yeah.
It was founded in Germany. Now they are trying to push this whole thing where it was founded as the Institute for Social Research in Germany first, but the truth of the matter is it was first named Frankfurt School. They changed it when they had to move over here to the United States during World War II, because they changed it to the Social Institute, or the Institute for Social Research here in the United States, in New York. Now today you'll hear the term new school, the new school being thrown around. That's like the hip new freaking name for it. But those are the three names that it goes for. Now,
Well, I think it's funny that well, I mean, the reason why we have a public school system is because of Germany. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I suppose kindergarten. Oh, that's sort of
Right.
mhm.
They started the public school system.
Or in the US anyway.
Well, it was see here in the United States, a lot of people don't realize they were really motivated by a lot of the German thinkers before the First and Second World War. Well, even after the First War, like there was a lot of philosophers that were coming out of Germany with a lot of stuff. Now, like in the 1800s, we had the Transcendentalists. Okay, that's 100% German philosophy right there. If you do research on that, you'll find that out. They're the ones who were actually responsible for the Civil War, okay? Because they were the ones who were going to create change. You know what I mean? These are the same people who freaking donated crap loads of money to efforts that would, free slavery and stuff like that. But they were also the ones who became the teetotalers. They also became freaking the prohibitionists after the cause ran out and they didn't have any reason to fight for it. They moved on to something else. Eventually, they became the prohibitioners during the early 1900s. And all of that started because of German philosophy.
Well, yeah,
they ran out of stuff to do, because then they started getting our philosophy. Oh, that's where the eugenics came from.
Yeah.
The United States trying to kill off freed slaves.
Well,
let's use that against the Jews.
You know that actually Adolf Hitler actually admired the eugenics programs we had here in the United States. Right?
Yeah, that's where they got it from. Yeah,
he actually did enjoy that. He thought that was a pretty good setup that they had going on here, and that was one reason why last week I wanted to put in there the whole thing about Planned Parenthood. I don't know if you were here when we did that. A lot of people don't know the story behind frickin' Planned Parenthood.
I do. Yeah.
And well, I figured you did, but you didn't say anything. So And,
Well, once again, after the slaves were freed, the society did not want to integrate them into the working force, into the housing market, into the economy. So they were trying to figure out ways to commit genocide, essentially, to kill off the black race. So you had forced sterilizations, you had gun rights taken away, also contraceptives. That's the whole reason why we have contraceptives, is so that black people would not reproduce. So we would just slowly die off and be a faded memory.
Yeah, but here's the thing. The U.S. during that long time ago was already talking about wiping out the Indians, killing off the Mexicans.
Well, the thing, we can agree that was all actually a part of all of it from before all of what we're talking about here. Okay, we can agree with that. But when it comes to eugenics, you have to understand there's involuntary eugenics and then there's voluntary eugenics. Okay, voluntary is where you have to convince people that they have to practice eugenics voluntarily and not against their will. Now, when you have countries like China or the former or Soviet Union, when it was actively the Soviet Union, they had involuntary eugenics programs where you were forced to freaking do what they wanted you to do according to the eugenics. Okay. Now, Planned Parenthood was actually a voluntary eugenics program, but the woman who started it was very racist, and her pure reasoning behind doing that was because she freaking said that all of the women that she dealt with that were black women she looked at them as subhuman, and she wanted to create a freaking higher race, a stronger race, and the only way to do that is to get rid of these black women in the ghettos. There's no other way around that. That's just the only way you can really say it. And she promoted that shit.
And the government permitted it.
The government loved it. That's why it's still going today. Okay? And today, if you try to search that information out, you'll find people who will reluctantly tell you that story. They'll try to make it out like she just loved her job, and yes, she was a part of the eugenics program, and you'll hear eugenics sayings that she quoted and stuff, but she really did love helping people. And no, she didn't. She was freaking she was a bad person, you know what I mean? There's nothing good that she was about.
Yeah, a proto-Nazi.
You know? And it's like, have you guys ever heard of freaking Eric Fromm?
Huh?
Hey, it sounds familiar, actually.
Have you ever
Remind me.
Eric?
I heard her name, but I can't think of from where.
Eric Fromm, man, he was one of the big guys who came out of the Frankfurt School. Now, he was what they call a social psychologist, a psychoanalyst, a sociologist, a humanistic philosopher, and a diplomatic or democratic socialist. Okay. This is what they pinned him as. Okay, he was a German Jew who fled the Nazi regime and settled in the United States. He was one of the founders of the William Allison White Institute of Psychology or Psychiatry. Okay, he is also a psychoanalyst and a psychology. He practiced psychoanalysis and psychology in New York City, and he was associated with the Frankfurt School of Critical Theory. This guy right here is the one who started all this stuff. You know what I'm saying? He's the one that came to the United States. They settled in New York, and I mentioned it before, where they had already figured out that freaking the Marxist movements and the socialist movements weren't working. And the reason for that was a lot of the socialist workers were buying houses, TVs, and they were freaking, actually freaking becoming a part of society and giving up on the socialist movement. So they turned around and they started asking, so instead of freaking trying to figure out how to make the movement work, let's figure out why it failed. So they started breaking all this stuff down and they started analyzing it. Okay, why was it that the socialist movement didn't freaking work? And that's why we have what we have when it comes to the Frankfurt School. They've literally dissected all this stuff.
It's weird how some of the stuff that shouldn't work did work. Okay, I'll give you an example. Chiropractic started off as a Christian cult. Healers from a Christian church started chiropractic.
Yep. I actually mentioned that once on Nancy's show, and nobody even nobody got hooked by it. You know what I'm saying? Like when you look at what is it called? It's not oligarchy, it's autocracies. Okay.
What is that?
An autocracy is basically a form of government where there's one ruler. You know what I mean? He's kind of like an absolute monarchy, but they disguise themselves like they're democratic. You know what I mean? When in reality they believe in one person ruling over everybody. Now the Canadians had that going on. There were tons of Canadians that were freaking a part of the autocratic movements, and they were heavily affiliated with the freaking chiropractors during that time period. And I did find that out. And I found that out actually by doing research into the new Rosicrucian church or temples that moved here to the United States.
So what kind of weapons did they have at their disposal?
They were chiropractics. Like you're talking about weapons and shit.
Yeah.
Getting people to believe it. Making money.
See, he's getting all into the whole. Okay, from this point on, we're going to have to ban Robert from talking.
I feel you, Robert. It's okay.
Well, you figure that the group as big as that, how do they tend to keep what's theirs? Well, if you're making money,
we're talking sociology, so they have to establish themselves as legitimate parts of whatever it is that we needed. Medicine, the economy, as an institution. There was a guy who was trying to fight the medical association because the medical association was trying to condemn chiropractic as a legitimate medical field, and the chiropractic side, they had a champion who sued the American Medical Association and won, which is why they still exist today, which is why it's a booming industry. You see all those YouTube videos of the guys putting towels underneath people's chins and stretching out their backs and stuff like that. You know, it's evolving. You know, it's still around. It has its purchase because it's evolving. You know, a fish dies in water if it's not moving, right?
Yeah.
So
a lot of that got really weird because, like I did when I was doing that research, like I said, I found out that the new Rosicrucian temples were involved in that. But then I also found out that the American Medical Society was also entrenched into freaking what's his name? The dude that does what is it? The Scientologists. They were heavily influenced by the Scientology. What's his name? The guy that started that.
Why do I want to say Herbert? No, it's
H something.
Yeah, we right. Hubbard.
Yeah, L. Ron Hubbard. He was.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, and they were all like bouncing back and forth. It was like this freaking. It was like this. Cult war going on over chiropractic. Chiropractic practices and stuff like that.
Okay, I remember this conversation when you guys have, because they didn't consider chiropractor or psychiatry as a real profession in the medical industry,
Right.
and they went and made it to the point that they actually proved it did have a point in it.
Well, see, for me, I think it had more to do with there was a lot of things that were taking place back then. McCarthyism was a big thing that really started up because of a lot of that too. And I've kind of gotten into that here recently where I had to start talking about it. But McCarthyism was something that really took off because of people who were trying to social engineer people. Now with like the early 1900s militias, they were really, really freaking crazy. Like these people, they believed that the freaking communists were going to come and freaking steal your children away. And that they were freaking, they even had old freaking militia videotapes where a preacher would be sitting up on the pulpit and talking about Jesus is warning everybody that they need to take arms against Satan because the communists are coming and they're going to kill your freaking family. You know what I mean? And people were terrified of this shit. They were 100% terrified from this shit. Didn't you? Yeah, what was that?
Kind of reminds me of my favorite Limp Bizkit sketch. It's like, have you talked to Jesus lately? You gotta give your gun to Jesus. Say, hey, Jesus, you go take that gun. You kill the Nazis. You killed Satan. Can I get an amen?
Yeah, but it's what you call it. You make a set mindset too, where you got people believing in what you want to believe.
That's what it's about. You see?
Yeah.
Well, also, I mean, the whole legitimizing psychology as a practice, I mean, it was really long overdue because, I mean, in my studies into the occult, the whole thing behind magic, of course there's no metaphysical aspect in magic in the real world. However, magic was something akin to sorcery. Sorcery was akin to politicians. If you can wrap words around someone's head and create a new reality, that is sorcery. That is magic. That is the occult. Okay? And so we have psychology in an industrial world. You're talking about the ability to either condemn people or make a butt ton of money off of them. So, of course, it was something that was legitimized. Again, I mean, it all falls under sociology.
Yeah, but something else that goes right up with it. Okay, you as a person have the ability to think for yourself in so many different directions, and when a person responds to you as a person, different nationalities or whatever they do not like, but you as a person know that this way this person's acting towards you, you're big enough to know not to respond the way he's responding towards you. Because you know how he is and the way you handle that situation.
Well, see, that's all good and everything and saying, but like this actually brings me to something we were talking about. I believe it was in the second episode, and that's where we were getting into religion. Okay, now when you talk about a lot of the nonsense going on, I'm gonna kind of do a switch around and this is what actually kind of got Tan butt hurt because he didn't understand what was being said here. Okay, he actually thought we were saying that socialism is good, and in reality, nobody was saying that. But the real reason why he didn't like it was because we were talking. Well, Mark mentioned it too, that freaking some sociology is good, which yeah, that could have been a factor. But also like this, okay. I asked just one time. I asked, okay, is religion eternal? Okay, and or is it like a collective delusion? And I started getting into that whole side of things. And the reason why I got into that is because people who are religious don't even realize that this same shit is being applied to them. And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to badmouth Charlie Kirk at all whatsoever.
It is socialism. It's social engineering.
It's the stuff that Charlie Kirk and his organizations are into is 100% sociology, just as much as the freaking wokesters, just as much as the Frankfurt School. They're all doing the same shit. It doesn't matter what your political freaking background is. It doesn't matter what your freaking religious beliefs are. You have these freaking programs that are infesting your religious groups. They're infesting your schools. They're freaking taking over freaking everything. Okay, and you will listen to them and you will think that they're so great because they're being activists and they're going to the colleges and talking to the kids about Jesus and talking to them about abortion and stuff like that. But the thing of it is you're not understanding. They are freaking social engineering our children. It doesn't matter if it's freaking what you consider freaking conservative or nationalist, or if it's freaking socialist. That's what they're doing. There were crap loads of people who weren't freaking socialists that practiced sociology. Hume's was one of them. Kant was a sociologist. These two were people who freaking were a part of creating natural law. And the only reason why they created natural law was to replace God. They were atheists and they believed that they could create a system that could replace God. And if you don't believe me, check it out. Find out for yourself. But it is the truth.
Well, natural law, are you talking about the fundamentals of what you're not supposed to do as a person and someone else? Natural law, I mean, natural law is there's only a few natural laws, because you have corporate law, you have natural law, you got man's law, you got universal law. Nature, natural law, for us is there's only a few of them. You don't steal from someone, you don't defraud someone, you don't injure someone, and you don't murder someone. Those are the only natural laws.
Oh, there's another one.
Okay,
no, those are the only natural laws.
Well, let me kind of get that makes sense. Okay, when it comes to like the basics, okay, but like these people have taken it farther. Like,
Okay.
Human beings have worshipped things since the beginning of recorded history. That you have God or gods. You've had kings. There's people who worship the sun and the moon, and then there's people who are ancestral worshipers. Now these days you've got people who worship money. They worship flags. They worship the state. And last year, me and Mark, when we were talking about Europe, that's where we started getting into the area of what ideology is. Okay, it's when you take people's beliefs and you create them into a tool for freaking rallying a group of people together that's ideology. You rally them together into a movement so that they will do what you want them to do. Okay, and that's where you get a lot of this stuff from. Okay, when it comes to ideology. So when you're talking about natural law, that's what they're doing. They're creating these freaking ideologies so that they can literally use them as a tool to freaking make people do what they want them to do.
And make you fear.
I mean, why do you think everybody's so big on what morality is? You know what I mean? Like today, everybody hears the word morality left and right, moral. You got to be moral.
And that's a social construct.
Exactly.
That is dependent upon collective agreement.
Right. Exactly. And
that's not natural law, though.
No. Well,
you hold up. That's actually something that is what I've been trying to say. It's natural law, but it is considered a part of natural law. Me and Mark's actually had this conversation, haven't we, Mark? Like a person's heritage, their traditions and morality. It's a big actually it's a big conversation in England right now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the whole point of natural law, and why it's called natural law, is there's no political constructs that can take natural law from you. Okay, it's don't harm anyone, don't steal from anyone, don't murder anyone. That's natural law.
Yeah, but
there's nothing outside of that.
Yeah, but natural law says that if you're not able mentally to take care of yourself, they have a right to decide and take it from you.
Yeah.
That's not natural law.
Yeah. That's what, And they can stick you in an institution with no hesitation.
Now,
that has nothing to do with natural law.
Now, according to what is defined by law as natural law, which that's one of the things the Constitution is actually built on too. Okay.
Right.
Now, laws originally are supposed to grow up organically around you. Okay, and that comes from like the actual, that's more of a conservative look at things. That's what they consider natural law. Instead of it being imposed on you from the outside, being forced on you, it should be a law that grows up around you naturally. Okay, that's what they consider natural law, or you know. It's something that appears organically, and they've also, like when it comes to kings, they've pushed out this whole lie where kings were freaking they were originally made kings by the people, and no, that's not what it was. Kings were made kings because they were conquerors and they took what they wanted. Okay.
Intimidation.
That was the way it was. And then when they became king, they told you that they had a connection with the divine, and that the only way you could freaking be a good servant of the king was to freaking recognize his connection with the divine. So, you there, Mark?
So I in the chat I put a link to natural law. Robert, you might want to look at it.
Okay.
It's done by a guy named Mark Passio, who's a former high priest in the Satanic Church, who came out whistleblowed. Mark Passio.
That's my point. You're talking about someone that makes a point of manipulation.
No.
He heard Satanist. You gotta.
I heard that.
It was your fault. Dude. He said Satanist.
Well, no. The thing is, he came out basically saying Satanism is bullcrap. He just wants to be a real person and give you a look behind the curtain and show you what was real. Mm-hmm. And he wants to talk. He talked about natural law. Just after we're done with this, let's click.
Well, later on we can get into it deeper too, because this is something that I do want to get into later on, because and kind of explore in the next few episodes, because that is actually a big part of it. Now, a lot of people have been they've been hoodwinked, is what I'm getting at. Like they start believing in morality and freaking thinking that this whole word morality has been used for freaking hundreds and hundreds of years, and it hasn't. You know, people at one time believe there's right and then there's wrong. people believe freaking you did this, but you didn't do that because that isn't the right thing to do. Okay? They didn't freaking talk about, oh, our social norms and what do you value in life? You know what I mean? And is that moral? People didn't talk like that shit.
I got disconnected. Okay, there we go.
Well, it's good because I was saying some pretty harsh stuff. You there?
I'm here.
But you know what I'm saying? And like 200, 300 years ago is when most of this shit really started up. You know what I mean? It wasn't something that was always freaking a part of society.
Yeah, and some of the words too wasn't thought of from years ago. You know, like you say, certain words wasn't thought of in certain period of time, and they're using saying that this word back then meant this, and they followed it.
Right. Well, if you take a look at the Brothers Grimm, me and Mark have had conversations about the Brothers Grimm's and linguistics. That's actually they were actually the ones who started linguistics back during their time period, and a lot of people don't know that. You know, and it's really interesting how that is working out today because like now they're trying to shape things according to freaking linguistics. And I don't know. I mean, I thought it was cool when I had for quite a long time ago, but when I started getting into this stuff a lot more, I'm starting to realize maybe it's not so good. Maybe that's a part of the social engineering too. You know, figure out ways of manipulating the way we speak and the things that we say so that we can have people think the way we want them to think, you know?
Well, that's like how things are today.
Well, think about this, okay? Why are they calling it woke? Why are they calling it wokeism? You know,
what does that mean?
That's a term. Everybody here but you understands what that means. Just trust me. But why do people say that word instead of what it really is? It's actually social engineering. It's sociology. Okay, these people are using freaking critical theory. Those are real words when you want to put a name on it. But instead of that, they're using freaking the word woke. It's because they don't want to connect it.
Because, you know wake up, man. Yeah. Trannies are people too.
Yeah.
Critical thinking is like
critical theory. I'm sorry. I should say critical. I said critical thinking, didn't I?
So there's a wide variety of that.
Let me make a distinction for you between that too, Robert. Like critical thinking is a good thing because you have to be a critical thinker to make a good decision. Okay. Critical theory is where you criticize everything.
Well, so what the thing about the English language is, okay, well, let me back up here. So something in the occult is there's a philosophy within the occult for those who practice sorcery, and you have what are things called spells, right? Spelling. You take controlled words and you take control of meanings, and in order to this is a philosophy within the occult. If you want to control someone, you speak backwards. And so our language is based on that. The English language, I hate to tell it to you, is based on speaking backwards, speaking upside down. I gave the example the other time, like when you talk to an authority figure and they say, "Do you understand?" What do you think you're saying is, "Oh, do I know the words that are coming out of your mouth and agree with them?" No, but what you're really saying is, "I understand," means compliance. You are subject to those words that were said. You. It's a contract. Whenever you engage someone in that kind of speak, you're making a contract. The contract is what magic is all about, what psychology is all about, what sociology is all about. It's the contract. Okay? So our language, the English language, is ass backwards. I can give you tons of examples, but
I've got actually a good one when it comes to that, and
Okay.
I use this as a really good example when it has to do with people talking about values. Okay, and when you talk about values that that go beyond reason, that's a thing you look at. Everybody's so big on what your values are, but like I mentioned before, this isn't about politics. It's not about religion or sociology. It's just about values. All right. And there's things like that are pretty much buried. They're buried like deep inside of us. Okay. That tell us that this is wrong or this is right, or I'll die for this or I won't die for that. Like there's things that people will literally die for. Okay. And then that's something that I understood. But when I got older, I started to wonder a lot more about it. Okay, and I started asking myself, are values really rational? Okay, now if you stop and think about it, okay, most people they think that they are, but they really aren't. Okay. Think about some of the stuff that people are willing to die for in life that's not rational whatsoever. Okay.
Absolutely. And the whole value thing. So value is the same. It's synonymous with labeling. Okay. If you put a label on something, you can put ownership over it. If you put ownership over something, you have control over it. If you have control over it, you can water it down, or you can make it worth something. And that's a word that I know Mark Worthy likes to speak on. Value and worth. These are terminologies. So
that's why I brought that up. By the way, I want to hear him talk. He hasn't said too much tonight.
Yeah. So I mean, you're able to control not just ideology, but you can control the concepts that form ideology.
Up to a certain extent, because it takes on people that have certain problems.
Now hold on, let Mark put his 2 cents in here, because this is actually his bright spot, dude. He's really big on the difference between what something's worth and what its value is. Go ahead, Mark.
But yeah,
he's our robotic right now.
that's why.
Yeah, we can't barely hear you. We can barely hear you. Something's freaking out on your computer.
I'm not people and stuff like that.
Okay. So say something real quick. Let's do an audio test. See.
Okay. Is this working?
Okay. Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what's your take on this whole thing with value and worth?
Value and worth. I can't think.
You're stuck. Oh my God, man. This is this is the one thing you love to badger me about, dude. In the moment you get to shine, you just can't say nothing. You can't think of nothing. So, okay, Robert, go ahead and take this away. What's your thoughts? I know.
Well, it's like anything. If a person's not, if he's handicapped,
you're muted. You're muted.
If you do not understand the concept of that, you're not really getting the ideal of that. And people today, if they don't understand it, or who's to say of the process how it works for them. You know, people have this thing about how it can benefit them, and that's the unknown about how the situation at hand can arise with other problems. And well, understanding, like your mindset of understanding things and comprehension.
See, again, those two terms are taken as the same, but they don't mean the same. And so, even with critical race theory was brought up here. So, or
Critical theory.
critical theory. Well, I want to bring up the critical race theory. So, here's something I covered on my show. You know, people were all panicking. Oh, the critical race theory, it's just, you know, white bashing and yada, 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 yada. And it's like, you know, that's how you take it. But if you look at it backwards, which a lot of things, again, you have to look at it backwards. So what they're telling you is, with critical race theory, they're saying, oh, we're the bad guy. White people are the bad guys. White people have done so many bad things over time and throughout cultures, different areas in the world. But what they're telling you is that they're the dominant ones. They're always going to be the dominant ones. There's nothing you can do about it. So you got to read it backwards. They're grandstanding like, oh, we're so apologetic. We've done some bad things, but look who's still in control. They're social engineering their sins, their crimes, as something as to be looked at as the past, while they still hold on to control. So you got to read everything that's put out by these institutions, by these, you know, alt-rights or wokes, you know, the way we are taught to oh boy.
Yeah, I think somebody
Moving around too much. Yeah, so the way we are presented information is, you know, is by feeling only. Nobody's comprehending. They're understanding, but nobody's comprehending.
I think what it really comes down to, in my opinion, okay, is the fact that people are trying to overthink a lot of this shit, and they're trying to compartmentalize it and put it into their little corner of the world that they are willing to accept. You know what I mean? Like, if you turn around and you look at a lot of the stuff that you just said there, you can also take a look at what Malcolm X said when it comes to the NAACP.
Okay? Right.
There were 3 black men that freaking was on the board for the NAACP, all right? And the rest of them were white men that were Democrats. Because they didn't think that little black man could freaking manage his own money. So they had to make sure that freaking, you know, old Whitey was sitting there freaking taking care of the money problems. Yeah, now people here heard Malcolm X say that, and all of a sudden Malcolm X wasn't invited to the universities where Martin Luther King got to do all his cool speeches. You remember hearing about that?
Exactly.
He got blocked away from that. These were black people that were saying, no, we don't want you here.
Exactly.
You see, that is the same thing. You know, and it's because that's what they want to do. They want to compartmentalize you. You belong here. You don't need to be over here in the universities. We'll put you over here in the ghetto with everybody. And then when all of a sudden there's the Crips and the Bloods, and freaking the Bloods are made because of freaking the Black Panthers, and the Black Panthers are created because of freaking Malcolm X and freaking everybody. They're like, oh no, what happened here? Well, that was what you created. Right? That's the history of all of it. That's exactly the history of it. And it was because they didn't give them a chance to say their piece. They let Martin Luther King talk, but they didn't want to let Malcolm X talk.
Yeah, but what I was trying to say too is that, okay, I've looked and I've seen on like stories of black people, and in them they have one thing all in common. They were smart enough not to think to the level of the white guy. Because why I say that for?
Amen, brother.
Yeah, because why I say that
he's turned into one of those liberal freaking white dudes. You know what I'm saying?
All right,
Yeah,
hey,
dude,
hold on
I'm not
with that L
racist. I'm not racist. I got a black friend, and the next thing you know, he's on freaking VoIP trying to contact you so he can prove to his buddies you're not racist.
well, what I'm referring
Let's hold
to
on
is,
on the liberal and conservative talk, all right?
Yeah.
Let's hold on to that.
Well, hold on now, because we have come to the top of the hour, dude. And it's like everybody has been winding up. I think we've actually covered enough. We even was able.
I've got 5% battery, sir. So yeah.
We even got to cover the racist stuff too. So you know what I mean. So we didn't do it as good as what we did the time before, but we got it covered, and I was really glad that we were able to go through like the Planned Parenthood, because I completely I went left field. Forgot I dropped the ball on that one when we were talking about the freaking atheist clause and the freaking like comparing it with the freaking Jim Crow laws, because that was what that was supposed to lead into, was these laws that were set up that was supposed to freaking force people to have abortions and stuff because of the judge's signature, and people who freaking couldn't freaking hold office because they were atheists, as well as the freaking Jim Crow, and kind of compare them together, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So, the one big difference I can say about was one was manufactured on purpose and the other one was a glitch. They figured it out that they could get away with it, and that's the difference between the two of them. I did want to point that out. And Mark, this was a horrible, horrible day for you, man.
It's not been too bad.
And I really, really hope that you start feeling better and that the heat freaking treats you better than what it has, because you've been looking like crap, dude.
Oh, come on. He's still got those cute curly cues. Did you get a haircut?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
When we started this freaking show, it was like, you should have seen him. He came on and he looked like he was tore up from the floor up, dude.
Again, I think we're the reason why he drinks.
Well, he is a drunk. You know, he's got to be.
I hardly drink. I never
drink that ginger beer
once in the blue moon.
Yeah.
A one time with a blue moon. Yeah, I like that beer. Yeah. That's good beer, Blue Moon.
Okay.
No, he's not really that big of a drinker. Like he had like a.
Still out on yesterday or day before. I had 3 pints in a local pub.
Yeah, that's not much. You did good.
Yeah, about 5%.
My iPhone's about to die, ladies and gents.
So
all gents.
Before we go, I'd like to say thank you guys for being here, and ask Mark Edworthy if he would like to give his socials before he got off of here.
Okay, keep it short. Minds.com, username, Edworthy.
Okay, so with B and Robert, you can get in touch with them through me if you want to, at Roger_Hanson at minds.com. You can also find me at Roger Hanson at ROGLOL1973. We are also on Element Matrix as well as Teams at Rogers Hangout. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed, please like, subscribe, share, make comments in the comment section below. We'd love to hear your feedback.
And if you want some real touch, send me a headshot and a money offer.
I was told that was not an appropriate thing to do, asking for pictures, so I will not say that. Thank
you don't want to be my pimp, my manager?
thank you guys for being on the panel, and thank everybody who is watching or may watch this in the future. We appreciate your support.